If you enjoy farm podcasts, then tune into Carrot Cash Flow for all things farm business. Join us as we explore the latest trends, tips, and stories from market farmers running businesses just like yours. Whether you're a seasoned farmer or just starting out, our podcast has something for everyone. Listen in and grow with us. Available on all major podcast platforms. Don't miss out. Subscribe to Carrot Cash Flow today. Thoughts on compost on the feel-good scale? I take a bunch of organic matter, I pile it up, I turn it, it breaks down, it gets smaller. A lot of that size reduction is stuff going up into the air. Is the net gain of what you get worth the trade-off of what gases were produced to make it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for one, I think it's funny because I came into soils, a big part of my interest was climate change and the promise of carbon sequestration in soils to offset greenhouse gas emissions. And I have to say, it's the last thing I think about now. To me, the climate benefits are like the cherry on top. Not only are the things that we have the most uncertainty around, but it's at the end of the day, a grower needs to stay in business. And so it's not going to be the primary thing that drives the grower. And also, I increasingly find it's not as compelling of a story as like the big holistic systems story of like how all of this is interconnected and how, again, like to your point of this question is like all the benefits of compost to me strongly outweigh any losses of greenhouse gases from the production of it. Waste has to be broken down. CO2 will inevitably form in that process. Like it is a carbon cycle, right? It's not a one-way street. It's a cycle. And for not every unit, but as the CO2 is contributed into the atmosphere, there's some plant that is ready to take that CO2 up and put it back into its cells. To me, it's waste has to be broken down, and I'd much rather see it be broken down in a compost pile than in a landfill. You're going to get much worse production of greenhouse gases, and candidly, they're going to have a higher radiative forcing. For instance, CO2 versus methane versus nitrous oxides. They're more potent greenhouse gases. And so you're going to get more methane produced in a landfill than you would in a compost pile. And so I'd say a full mass balance, I'd say composting our waste is going to be much more efficient in terms of greenhouse gases than landfilling. And then the other thing is, like I said, just the benefits of compost. And I think there's still a lot of questions around the production of N2O in soils, like how some of these management practices, maybe they reduce CO2 emissions, but maybe they increase N2O emissions, especially when we're thinking about things that are putting nitrogen into the soil, like compost or cover crops. But again, the benefits of increased biodiversity, increased water holding capacity, increased drought and flood resilience, increased resistance to pests and disease, increased resilience to markets. Because from a grower perspective, if I'm beholden to the cost of fertilizer at any given moment and fertilizer prices go through the roof, it's a lot harder for me to get sufficient fertility in my fields. Whereas maybe compost could be something that especially if you're making it on farm, could just contribute a little bit more to your overall economic resilience. And often you're taking waste products and turning them into a nutrient source, which again is going to contribute to the overall economics on farm. So I would say, and from my opinion, I'd say composting is always worth it. There are policy constraints with the production of compost. And there are even really important questions we have to ask ourselves now as composting is becoming more mainstream and they're wanting to have these big composting facilities. That can be a social justice issue. Like, where are those things situated? What are the communities that they're nearby? And how does that affect their air quality? The other question that we have around compost is like sufficient supply, right? It's even if every city and every town was composting its waste, would you have enough compost to replace fertilizer and still grow enough food? I don't know that's the case, but the thing is, I don't know that it needs to be, because compost can just be a great little inoculum. It doesn't have to substitute for all of your fertility program. But the distinction between compost and synthetic fertilizer is that, again, it's in this carbon matrix. Not only is it feeding the microbes in addition to fueling them in addition to providing them nutrients, but it's in this slow release form. And so less likely to have things like nitrogen sitting out there susceptible to losses. Yeah, I'd say it's worth it at the end of the day. It's a nuanced question, but I'd say compost is worth it.
Hello, growers. Protect your crops from harmful insects with Modern Growers Insectanet. This top-tier insect netting made by Modern Grower shields your plants from pests and harsh weather, boosting your yields without harmful sprays. Insectanet's unique design allows 90% of the light to pass through and is easy to use with low tunnel systems like our Quick Hoops. It's soft, elastic, and durable, perfect for field use to help ensure that your crops thrive. Say goodbye to pest damage and hello to healthier, market-ready produce. Invest in Insectanet and see the difference it makes. Get Insectanet at shop.moderngrower.co or using the link below.